Ever wonder what really separates the highest performers from everyone else? It's not just about raw talent or, working insane hours. It's something deeper. The top 1%, they don't just learn more stuff, they learn in a totally different way. So, let's dive in. Let's unpack the playbook they're using.
Okay, so this is where the whole game changes. See, most of us, we're taught to be fact collectors, right? We're just stacking up these isolated bits of info like a pile of loose bricks. But the top 1%? No way. They're architects. They're building this incredible mental lattice work, this interconnected web where every single new idea just instantly locks into place with everything else they already know.
And listen, you gotta understand, this isn't some minor tweak to your study habits. We're talking about a fundamentally different game. And this game, it's built on 5 super powerful and honestly often overlooked habits that literally transform learning from a chore into a genuine superpower.
All right, let's get into it. First up, the foundation. Habit number 1 is all about thinking in systems. Now, what does that mean? It means creating a structure for your knowledge that does the heavy lifting for you, especially on those days where you're just not feeling it, Think of it like a skeleton that holds all your growth upright. And honestly, this idea is best explained by one of the sharpest minds out there.
So this quote from billionaire investor Charlie Munger, it's just perfect. See, for him, learning was never about hoarding random facts. Every single thing he learned, every concept from every book he ever read, had to connect to something he already knew. He was constantly asking, okay, where does this new piece fit into my existing lattice work? Because that's the only way, really, to make knowledge stick and actually be useful.
And check this out. This is a perfect real-world example of systems thinking in action. There was this Spanish priest, José María Arizmendiarrieta. And he didn't just give a nice speech. No, he built an engine. He started a vocational school to teach people real practical skills. And what happened? The graduates from that school, they founded a factory. And that factory did so well that it funneled its profits right back into more education, which, you guessed it, spawned even more factories. It became this incredible self-reinforcing loop, a powerful system for nonstop growth and learning.
So here's the key takeaway, the big so what. A well-designed system will always beat raw motivation, every single time. Your willpower, it comes and goes. But a good system, it just keeps running. So you have to ask yourself, what system do I have in my life that forces me to learn, even when I don't feel like it? That's where the magic is. That's where you get that real compounding growth.
Okay, let's move on to habit number 2, which is all about using a beginner's mind.
And this is so important because, ironically, the most dangerous thing for your own growth can be thinking you're already an expert. Just think about the legendary cellist Yo-Yo Ma. I mean, this guy could have easily just coasted for his entire career as a master of classical music. But he didn't. He chose a path of deliberate discomfort, a path that basically kept him as a perpetual student.
He literally seeks out situations where he's the new guy, the novice. He'll go collaborate with bluegrass fiddlers or traditional Chinese musicians, things that force him to unlearn his own habits and see his instrument as if it's the first time. He leans into not knowing, and that curiosity, well, that's the engine that's kept him so creative for so long.
And there's a huge lesson here for all of us. Your own expertise can become this gilded cage, right? It can totally paralyze your imagination. The only way out is to actively shake things up. Go dive into a field you know nothing about. Ask the dumb questions. Put yourself in a position where you feel like a beginner again, because true mastery, it's not some finish line you cross. It's just a state of constant, relentless curiosity.
All right, habit number 3. This one zooms way in. We're shifting from the big picture to the microscopic. It's about learning in high resolution.
This means mastering the tiny, tiny details that most people just blow right past. Think about it. When you watch someone like the gymnast Simone Biles compete, what you see is just this explosive, physics-defying power. But here's the thing. That power is actually a byproduct of something else entirely. It's born from an obsessive, almost surgical precision.
Yeah, in the world of motor learning, they call this chunking. And it's basically the art of taking a really complex skill, breaking it down into its smallest possible pieces, mastering each one of those tiny pieces until it's totally automatic, and then reassembling them into this smooth, powerful whole. We're talking about someone who obsesses over a wrist angle that's off by a single degree, or a timing issue that's measured in milliseconds. That's what high-resolution learning looks like.
So how can you actually do this? Well, it's a process. First, you have to identify a super specific point of weakness. Then you isolate that one thing, and you just practice it over and over and over again until you've mastered it. And then finally, you integrate that now perfected detail back into the whole skill. The top 1%, they are actively hunting for those tiny little fundamentals that everyone else thinks are too basic to even worry about.
Okay, on to habit number 4. And this is the ultimate test of whether you actually get something. It's all about making sure you genuinely understand a topic, not that you've just memorized a bunch of fancy words.
It's the art of reconstructing an idea from scratch. The legendary physicist Richard Feynman, he was famous for this. He couldn't stand jargon or overly complicated explanations. For him, it was simple. If you can't explain something in simple terms, you don't really understand it yourself. Period.
And this is what led to his famous Feynman technique. It's brilliant. You take a concept, any concept, and you try to explain it in super simple language, like you're talking to a kid. The second you get stuck, or you start getting vague, or you have to use jargon, that's not a failure. That's a diagnostic tool. It shines a big spotlight on the exact edge of your understanding. So then you go back, study just that one gap, and then you try again, refining your explanation until it's so simple and clear, a child could get it.
And that brings us to our final habit, habit number 5. And honestly, this one is so fundamental that it's almost always overlooked. It's the practice of immersive observation. It's about learning not from books or from lectures, but directly from reality itself. You know the animated films of Hayao Miyazaki? They just feel so impossibly alive and emotionally real, right? Well, his secret isn't just a wild imagination. It's a deep, deep commitment to drawing from real life.
Miyazaki has this core belief, right? He says you simply cannot animate convincing human behavior if you haven't spent hours just watching it. His animators, they'll go out and sketch in public, just watching how a person's posture changes when they get bad news, or the tiny unconscious way someone fidgets when they're nervous. It's those tiny, authentic details. That's what creates that huge, unconscious emotional punch his work has.
And you can start doing this like today. For 1 week, just commit to watching. That's it. Notice how people's bodies communicate before their words do. See the little ways they signal they're uncomfortable or happy. And then, turn that lens on yourself. How does the tone of your voice change when you're under pressure? Where in your body do you hold tension? It's powerful stuff because you can't change patterns you can't even see.
So there you have it, 5 habits to help you learn like the absolute top 1%. Think in systems, use a beginner's mind, learn in high resolution, reconstruct from scratch, and observe immersively. The only real question left is which one are you going to build first?